Here we go.
All right. So yeah, we're seeing, in that bottom right-hand corner, there is that bright yellow light, or that coloring that indicates a high point, and then the shadow, that darker line area to the left of it. But again, that sort of looks like a lot of the characteristics of the seafloor that we've already seen. So it's safe to say it's not, an aircraft. It's probably more of the environment that we're working in. Russ, are you familiar with the Martin M130 China Clipper?
Yes, yes. There were that was the first of three. Yeah, the China Clipper, the Hawaii Clipper, and the Philippines Clipper. And the pilot who took China Clipper was the one that made the first flight, the first regularly scheduled flight all the way across the Pacific from San Francisco to Honolulu, Midway, Wake, Guam, and on into Manila. And the pilot on that first flight was Ed Musick.
Oh, really? So he was involved with that aircraft as well.
Yes, yes, that was the one. They had really developed the S-42, intending to use it on a transatlantic run, but couldn't get the landing permissions in on the other side in the UK. So they set their sights on the Pacific. It was a pretty audacious move to decide, well, if we can't do that, we'll just go tackle the most daunting routes on Earth. And so the S-42s were adapted for survey work, and Simone Clipper was certainly one of them. But so it was an S-42 that Musick and his crew used to make the first survey flights to Honolulu and back, and then they would continually push it on just a little bit further, and they would follow in the wake of Pan Am, sent these crews ahead to prepare these island bases to service and fuel the Clippers when they arrived. But it was always meant to be the M130 that would be the workhorse, to bridge the Pacific, because it just had, greater lifting capacity and longer range, and just better suited to that run. So it was the China Clipper that Musick flew on the Manila run and back, and that was really a high water mark. That it was such an accomplishment that was the year. So he did that in November of 1935, and he was actually on the cover of Time magazine on the December 2nd issue, and then for that year, 1935, he was awarded the Harmon Trophy, which recognizes the world's outstanding aviator. There were only two other Americans who had previously won that award, Charles Lindbergh and Wiley Post. So, but for some reason we don't. Today, Musick is not as well remembered as either one of those people. So hopefully we're doing a little something to set that right.
Yeah, I know. I certainly didn't know about the Simone Clipper or Ed Musick for that matter until getting the expedition overview and hearing you talk back in March in Rhode Island. And, for the last, 5 months or so, I've just become totally immersed in this story. So it is one that's very interesting, one that affects a lot of people, and, one that's worth telling. And I also didn't necessarily make the connection until you mentioned this transatlantic notion. But 1938, I mean, this was a time in the world where most of Europe was involved, in World War II, or getting to be very, very involved. And here we are in the U.S. Expanding through the Pacific.
Yeah, the war, officially breaks out in September of 1939. So, but the war clouds are gathering. I mean, everyone knows what's coming, and that's actually in something that author John Hill points out in his book Pan Am at War, about how the the U.S., the government and the Navy especially were very supportive of everything that Pan Am was doing, because it helped push forward and establish bases and kind of sovereignty in some of these Pacific island territories. So there was a real recognition that that was a national asset, and that they wanted to make sure that American company and presence could counter any other nations that were doing the same. And in fact, so Pan Am's Pacific service, continued all the way, from Manila, and then linked to Macau and Hong Kong and points in China, and they had actually a lot of times how they would get around the restriction, governments not wanting to grant an American company landing rights. They would buy up a controlling interest in an existing national airline. So there was a Chinese National Airways Corporation, CNAC, that actually became a Pan Am affiliate. So they had a huge presence throughout mainland China as well. And China was, in a lot of ways, China is regarded as the true start of World War II. With the incident at the Marco Polo Bridge and in December of 1937, and the invasion of China by Japan. So Pan Am was really on kind of the front lines already. At the time when Samoan Clipper was lost. In fact, Samoan Clipper was carrying, among the cargo that it was carrying to New Zealand, was newsreel footage of the sinking of the U.S. gunboat USS Panay on the Yangtze River after the Japanese attacked Nanking, and had was escorting refugees as they were escaping from the city, and came under attack by Japanese aircraft. So. The world, was really on the verge of a real terrible calamity, at the time that all this was happening.
Right, and the Pacific was such a huge strategy as well. I mean, there, were bases established all along the West Coast. You can still see many of them, even in the San Francisco Bay Area. In Alaska, my grandfather served in the Navy in Kodiak, and he was actually recognized for serving in a territory, because Alaska was not a state at the time. And yeah, so I mean, it was a very bold move to be, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but to be expanding that reach across the Pacific, and in the early hours of World War II. And as far as that newsreel goes, is there potential that it may be preserved if we do come across it?
Ooh.
Well,
I'm going to say no.
Right.
Wishful thinking, maybe.
I think the salt would get the nitrates.
You would think, yeah.
It would be in this. Were those aluminum canisters?
Yeah, I think they're aluminum. Two halves that would seal together.
I think Russ and I probably both worked with those in film school. I actually have 16mm reel hanging up in my office at home.
Yeah, I was in one of the last classes at USC in the film school there that use actual film.
Did you edit film?
I did.
I love that.
I did.
Were you guys actually like physically cutting it?
Cut it.
Yeah.
Yes.
What does that
tape
even
it back
mean?
together.
Cutting and
slice
slicing.
it. Yep.
Yeah. And then you go and show it to somebody, and one of your splices would break, and you're like, ah.
How would you splice it? Would you use tape, or is
There's
like
two
a
different
special
ways
glue?
you could do it. Yeah, you could do like either 60mm with tape. Anything above that, it was glue, or you could do hot glue splice. Well, it depends.
We worked on these machines. They're called moviolas, that had come, I think, from the MGM auction in the
upright
70s.
Ones?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
those.
we all speculate, like, somebody probably cut the Wizard of Oz on this thing.
Did you work on platters at all, like 2 or 4 platters?
Not very often.
Double system
we did
sound?
have them. We did have them, but like in the 16mm classes, we didn't really bother with that. So and then digital nonlinear editing was starting to come in.
It was like 82. No, wait, 91.
Yeah. I started in '93, so
Yeah.
it was like just starting to come in, and you know the bullpen or the editing suite in the school. It was this massive room that was filled with moviolas when I first got there, and then there was a kind of a broom closet that had 5 of these Avid stations, this
Yep.
digital nonlinear editing system, and then like a year after I was gone, it had completely flip-flopped, where the bullpen was now all exclusively Avid systems, and there was kind of 5 of these moviolas kind of pushed into a corner somewhere.
I unfortunately I learned on film, and then I made the transition to videotape, which was brutal, and then back to nonlinear editing, and so I really welcomed Avid, and it's been bins that you could set up just like I had done in film, and it was so hard to find a shot on videotapes. And I worked in video pre-time code.
Wow.
So that was even more troublesome.
It's gotta be rough, yeah.
I was just having this conversation with someone the other day that my generation is probably the last that had experience in the non-digital world. You know, like I had a VCR and dial-up internet, but then
although
the iPhone came out when I was in college, I think.
My daughter, who's 30, we were just on holiday with her, and she loves to take these, and she takes great images with a portable camera that prints the film and then develops it like a
Polaroid.
Like a Polaroid.
Yeah.
Polaroid's not made anymore.
Yeah.
But they're smaller than a Polaroid. They're much smaller than a Polaroid.
Yeah, but I think
and
there's a new Polaroid. Yeah, they're like making a comeback for sure.
It's like just in all these countries, they're just getting these great iconic images that, and for it has the novelty of it, but at the same time, for no offense to younger people, but it has the instant gratification as well.
No offense taken. I love instant gratification.
You get to see it right away.
Yeah.
There's nothing more nerve-wracking than being on a huge shoot and then having to wait till your film comes back from the lab.
Yeah, I had a real Polaroid so your daughter and I are the same age.
Did you burn through all your film in like 2 hours?
Oh, absolutely. It was the fun. My dad was like, "What are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
That film is expensive." Yeah. Yeah, my brother will be 21 this year.
Wow.
And he's the youngest of my siblings, and his childhood is completely different than mine was, you know?
Right, because he's been on social media.
Yeah.
And your parents have no experience being on social media raising him. I'm like your parents didn't go through middle school being taunted or having people unfriend them.
Totally. I know. Right. I look at some of the things. I'm like, I didn't have to. I mean, we had AIM Messenger when I was in like 8th grade. That was sort of the extent of it. It's a very different world. Well, but I mean, it's also amazing. Like, look what we're able to do right now. We're live streaming from 3,000 meters to people all around the globe, which, is pretty cool.
Russ, I was, I don't think it was when you were on launch, whenever, but it was on my second launch. I was recounting how I was on a different vessel, and we discovered the Monterey shipwreck in the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah.
And we, because of our schedule and commitments, only had 4 hours to spend on that wreck. And I edited a piece together for that client, and it got an amazing number of views. It was on the front page of CNN, etc. It tells you almost everything you need to know about that wreck in 4 or 5 minutes.
Sure. And
from a 4-hour dive. So there's still hope.
Oh, yeah.
There's still time to
do
our job.
Yep. Well, I could not agree more.
And I appreciate the fact that we're sticking to a sane, logical plan and executing. It's you see a lot of times on missions where you're not really hitting your prime objective, and the clock starts ticking, and the people who are you know, in charge of the expedition hear that ticking quite loudly, and it can force them to abandon their game plan
Right.
and frequently make mistakes in decisions.
Yeah. No, we want to come away with this, you know, with you know, usable data and data that, you know, potentially we can build on if
Right,
you
right,
know,
exactly.
So
Although I'd be much happier to hand you a flying plane.
I'll
flying
take
boat.
that. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Please do.
I think
Yeah.
we'd all take it.
Yeah.
At this, yeah. Maybe a belated birthday gift.
Yes.
Well, wait, do we have any more birthdays on board?
Next month.
I think
No.
Suna, is your
This
birthday
leg,
coming up?
Suna? She's August 20th, I think.
No,
That's not you? Who was that? Somebody was
it's
telling me they're
July.
August 20th.
Yeah, it's coming up.
She's
Maybe
very
you'll be the lucky birthday.
She's quite secretive.
It's a secret.
Yeah.
No one knows.
She's
The things I see on this incoming message board.
oh yeah. Actually, I know. Wait, I don't know the date. Suna's the same age as my sister.
Huh?
28.
Yep.
Okay,
Did you say Suna's the same age as your sister?
Yeah, I think so.
I'll take 28.
Yeah.
Yeah, I turned 29 this year, and my mom was like, that's weird that we're the same age all of a sudden. Like, how
Right.
did that happen?
It was your first annual 29th birthday.
Yeah, yep. Next year will be the second anniversary of my 29th birthday. This is a good point that someone just said, Russ, too. It's, you know, even if worst case scenario, we don't find the Samoan Clipper, we still know where it's not.
Yep.
I mean, we're still contributing
informs
Yeah,
knowledge.
that's still
further
useful
search,
information.
yeah.
You know, we know where it isn't. I'd rather know where it is, but
Yeah.
you know, this is part of the process and the process of
I'd rather come
exploration.
back here and dump a couple AUVs in the water and let them go to town.
Yeah, yeah.
But then you gotta come back with a whole nother vessel to do anything about it. That's,
Well, and a truckload of money too.
yeah, it's an expensive hobby.
Yeah.
Do AUVs tend to be a little bit more expensive to operate?
No, no,
than-
no. They're less expensive to operate, but they're frequently, well, you can use them in a couple different modes, but you can bring out a vessel that all it does is it tenders the AUV. It puts in the water and it recovers it, processes data. But even if you find your target, you can't do anything about it. Now you've got to
Right.
organize a whole nother expedition. You've got to fly all the technicians and scientists and staff and everybody in. You've got to get a boat to that region of the world that's equipped with a remotely operated vehicle.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So that's just very preliminary,
Yeah,
kind of that
and-
first
and
glance.
There's a small trend. Some missions are going with ROV and AUV,
Mhm.
but typically they're having to do a bit of an amalgam of resources. So they're pulling from different entities, an ROV provider, an AUV provider, and trying to coordinate all of that happening at the same time. And then you have to be careful about, you know, operating an autonomous vehicle in an area where you have a tethered vehicle as well. There's not a ton of examples, but there's plenty of stories about ROVs having to get out of the way of an AUV who doesn't know it's there.
Sure. Alyssa's sort of an AUV, ROV, all the V expert.
Yeah.
all the UVs.
All the Vs, all the UVs.
How about ASV?
Yes.
Yes, I work with those as well.
Wow. look at
Cool.
you.
Yep.
What's an ASV?
Autonomous surface vehicle.
Cool. So they're just operating along the surface.
Yep. So basically a self-driving boat.
So then when we're looking at this AUV, oh, a big fish. Did you
Or a
guys see
little
that? Or a
fish
little
close
fish
to
really
the
close?
camera.
What I meant to say was a very well-focused fish.
Yes. Yeah, that was
that we
close.
could actually see. That was exciting. Are AUVs still sort of cabled up to the vessel at the top, or are they operating completely remotely?
Completely.
That's the
untethered.
yay. Yeah.
So what happens if something happens to the AUV? I mean, if it sinks or suffers any sort of
Typically
issue?
they're positively buoyant, so if something happens, they will eventually float up to the surface. But a lot of times they'll know something's wrong. There's like levels of things that could go wrong. So depending on that level of issue, it will probably surface and send like a ping to the ship, being like, "Help me,
find me."
Some of them have satellite phones
Yes.
inside them. Yeah.
Do they have GPS then too?
Yeah.
as well?
So even on shore, people can usually control them.
And you could find it if for
satellite.
some reason it did.
Yeah.
happen.
Rutgers
really-
has a lot of AUVs or gliders. I'm sorry, gliders
yeah.
that they can control,
Yeah,
which
the
are
really
different.
Those can be
heartbreaking one recently was the British expedition that made its way, down in the Antarctic to the position close to where Shackleton's Endurance was crushed and sunk in the ice, and so they were, virtually certain that when they launched their AUV that it was going to image the wreck and because fly over the meticulously plotted last position, and it never came back. And the thing is, it was operating under the ice, so if it had any problem and it tried to surface, it wouldn't have been able to. So they got that close to their goal and then lost.
Did they get any visual of it or no?
No, they
never
didn't.
recovered the
AUV.
AUV. You got to get the AUV back to get the data off it.
Oh, so they don't have that capability to live stream. So if we were operating an AUV, there'd be nothing for
you just
our
put it in
viewers
the
to
water
see.
and there it
And
goes.
It's just gone.
Gotcha.
I mean, they still accomplished a lot, and they were doing a lot of environmental science, and still, accomplished a great deal on that mission. But I know that they were just heartbroken that they got so close to their goal, and then one of their other goals, and then lost the means.
Oh, that is
There's
heartbreaking.
been there was a hybrid ROV. Actually, it was like, I forget what they called it, but it was lost at sea as well, and it could operate in semi-autonomous or minimally tethered mode. That was lost. The gliders are pretty cool.
Yeah, they can be out there for months at a time too.
Oh,
yeah,
months.
and they do a cycle of going up and down.
Very low power.
Using a very small, almost like a syringe, and they can pull the plunger on that and make it positively buoyant by having more of an airspace in there.
Well, it looks like our what time are we? 12.
Don't
12
ask me. I'm lost in time here.
We are 8 to 12, so our 12 to 4 watch is coming in. I'm just gonna grab these last two questions before we head out. We are not going up or down. Our Argus is still operating at an altitude of about 15 meters above the seafloor. So what you're seeing is sort of that muddy sediment bottom. And you can see it in the side scan sonar as well. That orangey brown coloring indicates sort of this flatter area. The signs that we're looking for when we're searching for the Samoan Clipper are those lighter yellow areas that you see that indicates height, and then the black area surrounding it indicates a shadow. So ideally, we'd find something that is tall, potentially, and then has a big shadow, but also, features human-caused or human-crafted features. So that would be those sort of straighter lines, right angles, diagonals, things that aren't seen in nature. So, a lot of these we've determined are, in fact, geological features, and that is confirmed by what we're looking at below Argus. When we come into those rocky areas, you can see those sort of big rocks. And with that, I am going to hand it over to Brian because I smell lunch wafting up into the control van, and I am so excited to find out what it is. Don't tell me.
You don't even have to go into the mess. You just need to go down to the social deck and look on people's plates.
Oh my gosh, I cannot wait. I will report back. Or maybe ask Brian. He's already had lunch.
He's
I'm
not
sure.
going to say anything. Yeah.
All right. Later, guys.
Enjoy your lunch. So Brian, what's the first thing you're going to do when we see this flying boat come into sight?
Oh man. There's limited space to dance if I jump up quickly,
Right.
but I might do like a little spin on the chair.
I'm going to push this button right here that says
Yeah.
all, and I'm going to say expedition leader to the control van.
And then make sure everything's recording.
Yeah, yeah.
So by tonight we'll be, what, 100 hours into this dive?
We were 85 hours in at our right after our call at 8 this morning.
Oh,
So,
we're
so
89.
I don't know what time of day it is.
It's noon.
Yeah, oh, yes, that's not much later.
Yeah, well,
23, 54, yeah, I'll buy that.
Back road checking in.
Hey,
hello.
welcome.
Hey, thank you.
We were just having an interesting discussion with Russ about the fate of the flying boats contrasted with the concept and attempted execution of the Spruce Goose during World War II. You were just there, right?
I was just there. I just saw the.
How big is
flying
that?
bee. It
Were
is
you
just,
inside it?
It is insanity. Yeah, they let you go inside,
What?
and it's all gutted on the inside, so you can see like the whole structure
Bars
and the
and everything,
fuselage.
yeah.
It's just, you're like, you look at it, and you're like, how did that thing ever get off the ground for
Russ
any amount of time?
was explaining that during World War II, the Spruce Goose was an attempt to avoid submarines to get supplies to Europe, and that it was experimental in its development, so they didn't have access to core war materials like rubber and steel, which is why it's made out of wood.
Interesting. Huh. Because they just needed all that material for the war.
For actual, yeah. Instead of trying to build some giant thing that may or may not ever fly, we're going to build tanks with this steel and put tires on Jeeps. And you go ahead and build what you think might work out of wood, and took forever. And by then, we had negated the submarine threat, as Russ explained. So what?
Howard Hughes like funded it, right?
Yeah, he was hoping to build them and sell them to the government, I believe. By virtue of his wealth, he was eccentric.
He was. I read a really interesting book about, or chapter in a book about the whole Glomar Express thing.
Yeah, and the tie, it's so strange. Wish Ross was around to hear this. There's a tie, although Dan might get this, from Howard Hughes to Watergate. There's a relationship there that's really
I bet there
interesting.
is. That guy was all over the place in the government. But the phrase cannot confirm nor deny basically originated from that whole shenanigans, because they obviously didn't want the Russians knowing that we were going after their sub, but it's public, you know, as a government, so they, like the public, and it was just after the Nixon and the Watergate thing happened, so it was, they were very, like, the government was pressured a lot to, like, really tell the truth and all that stuff, so that they were like, well, what do we tell the public? Because it was getting fishy, like this whole operation going offshore with this massive claw machine, and what it was actually doing, mining, was it really? So basically the public was getting wind that it was maybe an exploration of trying to find a Russian sub, and they basically hired this lawyer that came in, and the way that he like phrased it best was to get it out to the public was, we cannot confirm nor deny that we've found anything related to da-da-da-da. And so that was like the most stealth way they could get across that information. Yeah, so fun fact.
I can neither confirm nor deny that that's true. It'd be nice to serve up a flying boat on a silver platter.
See, inevitably when we say that, it will appear.
If I just keep saying it
just
like
like the
every
pizza.
45 seconds.
Will it to happen?
2 days later, and there was pizza.
I was so good. I did not mention anything to Maddie that there was pizza down there.
It had nothing to do with Miles either. Miles kind of maybe requested it on my behalf.
Huh.
Yeah, because I was going to say, you can't just ask them to make pizza.
I like that Max saw me come on board and we had couscous for like the next 5 meals. I love that couscous.
Yeah, you feel like refreshed after eating it. You're never like, ugh. No one's ever like, I ate too much couscous.
I know. It would
Such
take
a
forever.
light, fluffy, delicious. It'd take forever. Couscous is really good when you want to eat 10,000 of something.
It's like going to the casino and trying to lose $5,000 by paying nickel slots. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, who's the comedian that said that about rice? Mitch Hedberg.
Oh,
He's
man,
like,
one of
rice.
the greatest.
Rice is so good. Especially when you want to eat 10,000 of something at once.
You see that with Greg, right? Diffendale?
Yeah.
That's his, you get him going on Mitch, it's nonstop.
An escalator can never break. It can only become stairs.
Yeah, sorry for the convenience.
Yeah.
You can't stand there, that's a fire exit. I think that's my favorite. If you have legs,
I can move.
You're never blocking a fire exit.
Fettuccine Alfredo is mac and cheese for adults.
Mac and cheese is mac and cheese for adults.
Yeah. I still enjoy a good, like, top ramen kind of noodle thing.
Looks like another fish right in the view.
Yeah.
Oh man, I really want to see those up close because I'm curious what they look like. It's hard to tell the features of a fish from above.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's coming. It's coming. Be patient.
One more time. Sorry, Ed, could you repeat that?
Oh, your time to look at marine organisms is coming.
I know.
Followed by getting off watch, and then 3 hours later we recover, and there's 42 samples.
And then we get to put them all in the fridge.
And then you process all of them, and then your watch starts again.
Yep.
You'll be longing for a side scan. Maybe not. You seem
Maybe
pretty
not.
enthusiastic.
I'm pretty excited.
Is this yours?
It's got everything in it.
Yeah, I've seen those a couple times. And somebody just posted one on social media thing I follow.
Oh, that was a vampire squid or jumbo octopus we just passed, I think.
Really? I didn't see those.
It was right in the bottom left corner.
I did not
Or
see
sorry,
it.
bottom right corner.
Oh, I have a... that's kind of obscured on my monitors. What was your numbers conversion at, Summer?
In the back?
Your...
As always, anyone in the audience, if you have any questions, feel free to ask, and we are more than happy to answer them.
Absolutely.
Is that a rock or a depression on the left?
Rock.
All right.
Looks like the current might have washed a little depression around it.
Yeah. There's a big highlight on the left side. I'm going to guess that's a rise.
On the forward-facing sonar?
On the side scan. Like big highlight without a shadow.
My guess this is a rock.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man, I wish I had had this last year. Or 2 years ago. This was a theme for like the whole season.
What's that?
I was talking this summer.
Oh.
We, a couple years ago, the SCF somehow were fixated on what do you call a group of and name of organisms there, and Summer's little pocket
Cheetah
reference guide.
Coalition.
That sounds like something
Yeah.
we'd do.
And then there's other ones.
What?
Summer, what would you call a group of purple pelagic sea cucumbers?
Let me check my reference book.
Oh, I know this
She'll
one.
get right on it.
Sea cucumbers are bottom feeders that will ingest anything and then immediately spit it out the other end. I think that's a congress of cucumbers. Is that right?
Congress.
Only if you're full of the cucumbers.
Those are I don't want to say delicacy, but they're a food.
Yep. I've actually had sea cucumbers before.
Chewy, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gross.
It's all right.
They look chewy.
What do you think of that target on the right, Dr. Megan?
Seen it.
I think it's a big rock.
But it looks like a tiki. A little alien tiki.
Ooh, I
An
can see that.
alien tiki
A
to go with
Teletubby
our
tiki.
alien
No, Teletubby
electricity
tiki.
monster.
Tiki. That's
Whoa.
hard to say.
Whoa.
Anybody?
Oh, there's a
Diggy
big
diggy.
rock on the left side.
I think it looks like a Lego piece.
Oh,
Okay.
That's a big boy.
that is a big boulder on the left side.
Does not look like a flying boat.
No. That
Maybe if you
rock
squint.
is not flying boat shaped.
I received some emails that people would like to have an explanation of the screens, and I know we do that each time, but
Yeah,
perhaps we could do that
we're all
again.
over it.
Okay.
We haven't done that for a while on the
Yeah.
last launch.
Okay.
So for those of you tuning in, you have our 3 channels, and I'll kind of go through one at a time and tell you what they are. So, channel 1, you are looking at our side scan sonar, and that is attached to Argus. You notice that
It's okay.
kind of the top row and the bottom row kind of look similar, and that's because they're showing almost the same thing. The bright yellow waterfall coming down another side, that is the frequency that isn't nearly as long, but is a bit more high definition. The one below it is not nearly as good at providing as clear of a picture, but can go a bit further.
So when you say bright yellow, you're referring to the ribbon above the...
Yes, the ribbon above. Both waterfalls do kind of look yellowish orange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of lava lampish.
Yeah. So in the second channel, you can see what Argus sees. So because it's called a side scan sonar, you're only scanning what you can see on the side. That leaves the area directly underneath you not visible to the sonar. So luckily we have a wonderful HD camera pointing directly underneath where Argus is, and we're about 15 or so meters off the seafloor. So as we kind of heave up and down a little bit with the waves, you can see what's in that area directly underneath that isn't picked up by a sonar. It's called the nadir. In the third feed, you can see what appears to be a kind of pinkish purple object pulling along a square. That object right in front is us, that's the Nautilus, and that square that kind of moves back and forth a little bit, jumps over around, is Argus. So we're continuing to go up and down these lines, and they're still taking us about one whole watch to kind of get through or across all one of them. So it's about 4 hours.
Is there 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more of those, Rennie?
No, there are 3 more.
Okay.
To the west.
And what about to the east?
We've already did one of them, and the other one we deemed was close enough to our other survey that we got data.
Good.
So potentially these are the last 3?
Of the west.
Yeah.
Of the west, okay.
Yeah. Then I think we're going to do a holiday, and then the south. I'm hopeful for the holiday.
So line number 27 you'll see will pretty much cover during our watch from noon to 4. Number 28 will happen from 4 to 8. And then 29 from 8 to midnight. And then we'll move on to the other sections.
And then hopefully
so
us.
Our watch may be a lot of transiting to get over to start that holiday. I don't know.
And then just for the audience, holiday means an area that hasn't been mapped yet. There are some gaps in our side scan sonar data, so
we're going to proceed to the selected target? Thank you.
I'm going to try and, I should have done it this watch. I'll do it my next watch. Jot down like the 8 phases of a side scan watch.
What are we at now?
Well, I came in energetic and enthusiastic, and I'm now at super hopeful.
Well, we had pizza too, so that should definitely instill hopefulness.
Yeah, I'm super hopeful. I
vibes.
actually thought about breaking tradition and trying to conjure this up. I have a sea shanty that I usually reserve for the very end of an expedition, but might have to bust that out.
What is that, a good luck thing?
Just tradition.
What do you do with it? Clean your screens?
No. You've heard it probably.
Oh.
Maybe not. It's not like remarkable or noteworthy, just tradition.
Did you think he said sea chamois?
Yeah.
Sea shanty.
See, he speaks Philly mumble.
I thought you said chamois. I was like, you clean? We're cleaning with it. You can't do it now.
I was like, what is she talking? Oh my god.
It's one of the new products in QVC. Check it out. The sea chamois.
Yeah.
I was talking about QVC. Was that with you guys?
Micro.
This is so confusing to me trying to remember if I said this with you guys or with another watch.
The most awesome stuff you said with us, because obviously.
QVC. Yeah.
We're awesome.
Yes.
So thank you to those viewers joining us. Continue to send in those questions.
Ask us questions.
We went through the map of the U.S., which is a little tricky because it's just a geographical map, and we're naming the cities that people were viewing from and identifying gaps in our geographical knowledge of the United States at the same time.
See, so far we've tried going, oh, it's going to appear right now. And then that hasn't worked. So what if we're like, it's not probably not going to appear in the next 5 seconds?
So it's just going to be stubborn and like prove
Yeah.
us wrong? Oh, well, if you don't think I'm going to show up, then I'm going to show up.
Are we going to
like
use reverse
fashionably
psychology
You're
on
going
it?
to try and psych out the airplane
Yeah,
wreck?
maybe. I don't know, these rocks seem very, this rock
You weren't
formation
going to
right
show
here
up
seems
anyways.
really,
It's like it's right
Really
You
behind
have to
us
count.
watching
You say,
us.
I'm going to count to 15, and if you don't come out by then.
I
Lonnie,
will turn the ship around.
Use your best mother's voice.
Tina 4.
Yeah.
Hello.
Rocks. Hello.
Rocks.
So I don't think Tina 4s actually emit light, do they?
No, they refract
it's just
light.
their cilia refracting, right?
So for the viewers, Tina 4s are, they're also filter feeders. So they drift through the water column, collecting bits of plankton, detritus, anything that might be nearby. But unlike jellyfish, they don't have stinging cells, they have sticky cells instead. And they're also known for having cilia, that sort of these comb rows, that as they beat, refract light, and it makes these beautiful rainbow patterns all the way down the sides.
How many classes did you take freshman year?
I know.
Peyton
He's
is-
unbelievable. He's an encyclopedia.
I
It is
just
absolutely.
am very excited about biology.
Encyclopedia Peytonica. Right there.
It's more like stuff you just pick up
Yeah.
over the course of your life because you're really interested in marine science.
Normally
And
people
you've lived
lose
so
that
long.
stuff.
Yes. Peyton has a vast knowledge of
Not
things
that
based on
vast.
his years of experience. and-
does.
Tina 4s are
Right.
just really cool.
So we got quite a few viewers in the U.S. from the Pacific Northwest.
Representing.
All
Yeah.
right.
Hey, y'all.
Bunch in Florida.
None in Alaska.
That.
Yeah, Alaska, you're letting us
That's
down.
right.
We'd love
Disappointed there.
to talk with you. I think that one right there is the Marine Research Laboratory. We talk with them pretty often, and they are awesome. Possibly a viewer in Detroit, maybe? Yellowstone area.
Grand Rapids.
We're missing some people. If you have friends in Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Utah,
Light
tell
them up.
Yeah, tell them about the EV Nautilus. Share that link now.
Are we supposed to smile or not?
You're always supposed to smile, Lonnie. Life is one big adventure.
Then it's over. You get one, you make it a big full one.
Yep.
Lonnie's done that, I feel.
Lonnie is definitely
world is
someone
happening
who's
in the
familiar with
studio?
adventures. They're getting ready for an interaction.
Yeah.
Don't remember where that one was. I'll tell you.
Oh, he's got his hat.
Oh, they're talking about the Explorers Club.
Yeah.
The question about the Argus cam pointing down, I don't believe it's pointing straight down. Correct, Ed?
No,
It's got a slight upward angle.
yeah, hold on just a second.
Hey, Oklahoma City, thanks for joining us. Ooh, that was a good question about how deep Argus and Hercules can go. But what's the shallowest we've ever used them? I honestly don't know that answer.
The deepest Hercules is rated for is 4,000
the plan.
meters. Argus is rated to 6,000 meters depth, so we could go deeper with Argus. We're limited by the length of cable we have at any given time. So right now we are capable of going to full Hercules depth with our current cable. The shallowest dive we've ever done, we were probably only 30 meters deep. It was kind of something that we were in the area for and had the tools and everything, but you normally would not need all our full capabilities for something that shallow, but that was the tools at hand. So.
Hey Peyton, you've got a friend and or family member joining you. Yaren?
Yaren! That's a friend.
Hey Yaren, thanks for tuning in.
Did she ask a question or just saying hi?
She's asking, have any cool creatures shown up since the start of the journey?
Ooh,
I'll let you answer that one because you are our biology fan.
Well, we've seen a couple of, so right now in the view, there's always a couple purple holothurians, which are sea cucumbers, and these are modified to be able to swim in the water column. We've also seen some polychaete worms, which are basically just little bristle worms that wriggle through the water. And there's been a couple shrimp, or at least shrimp-like crustaceans, and they usually like jet away really quick as soon as they come into view. And I think the other thing, earlier we just got a really brief glimpse of either a Dumbo octopus or a vampire squid. It only appeared for like a second or two in the bottom right corner.
Well, if you note the UTC time, you can I can hook you up with the file and you can go back and look.
Yeah, I did write a note right after I saw it.
Yeah.
So I can...
Yeah, our files are in 15-minute chunks and they're not too large.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen, I know they're incorrectly named, but they're trippy, the sea spiders?
Pycnogonids.
Oh, yeah. I don't think I've seen...
Pycnogonid.
Yeah, pycnogonids. I don't think I've seen one in person.
Yeah, they're really cool when you get to image them because they really are climbing the water.
Wow.
Do you want to know what a group of spiders is called?
Yes, what's a group of spiders?
It's called a clutter.
A clutter?
Huh. Yeah.
They gotta get themselves together. A clutter of spiders.
There's like a video online of like this dark mass underneath like a cupboard, and you think it's just a shadow until they like poke at it, and it's just spiders like spilling out and away from it.
Wonder how they figure out
we just lost
what
all
each
of our
group
viewers.
is.
Oh, I'm sorry.
How was it decided a group of spiders is called a clutter? That'd be interesting to know.
It was a group of writers.
Group of writers?
I feel like they should be called like a tangle because they're making webs.
Yeah, what a tangled web.
The moms carry the baby spiders on their backs.
Some do. I believe usually it's like a nest of eggs. There might be some that carry them though. Let me take a look. Yeah, there are some.
Oh, that was good.
I know, because you think you're going to kill one and then whoo, in all directions.
It looks like it's wolf spiders.
A wolf spider. That's it. Yep.
Wow.
We have those frequently in the crawl spaces in the Pacific Northwest.
They like dark
Yep.
corners, closets and things. Check your boots.
I have a associate who lives on the big island of Hawaii, and when you talk to him about the centipedes or the ants getting into your food or whatever, he just refers to it as paradise tax.
I remember that.
Yeah, it's a good mindset.
Yeah, we were at that restaurant in Samoa, and we just saw that bug walking across the table.
Yeah. Yeah, your objection to the insects, it kind of outs you as to how long you've been in the tropics. Same as with how thick your wetsuit is in Hawaii. If you're in a swimsuit, tourist, like rash guard, 6 months, maybe 3. 3 mil, up to a year. Yeah.
So if you're in a Speedo, what does that mean?
You're not from the United States.
Yes.
Or you're Michael Phelps.
Do they even wear Speedos anymore? I thought they wore these weird suits now. Like shark skin suits.
Bridge nav.
I think some of them do.
We can proceed to select a target.
But I think it was
Thank you.
the previous Olympics, they actually banned some of the suits.
Right, right.
It was providing too much buoyancy.
Dental dermicals, or I'm mispronouncing that. Dermal denticles. Was that it?
Yeah, I
Teeth
think
bones?
so. Right, where they're
Or
edged
skin.
in one direction but not the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how shark skin works for anyone in the audience. Their scales have these little spines on them, and so that it creates this sort of sandpaper effect in one direction if you rub against the forward from the back to the front of the shark, but from front to back it is very, very smooth, and it lets them move very fluidly through water.
Nav, are we on the line or are we in the turn?
We are still making forward way on the line, so I
Okay.
didn't want to cut it yet.
Okay.
But soon we will be on the turn.
Soon.
Boy, the end of line one before last looks like it was a neat little U.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. Pretty good. That would have been.
Can you hear me?
Chris.
Team, I want your opinion.
Yes, Lonnie.
What is an appreciable amount of time?
In any
An appreciable
context?
amount of time.
I think it's context dependent.
Yeah.
So
If you're trying to get your parachute to open, it's different than trying to get your thesis accepted.
yeah, so I went back to the accident report
Yeah.
one more time. And we've been saying that the eyewitness said the wing appeared to be floating for 5 minutes. The accident report says the airplane appeared to be visible for an appreciable interval before sinking from sight.
Which probably means they may have pressed the witness and she really wasn't sure.
Or
Perhaps?
someone, I don't know, but...
Well, the 5 minutes comes from the telegrams sent back and forth where they were describing her witness statement the first time. And that's where, like, it actually
Right.
says 5 minutes.